This is the introduction to the assembly module, which we will need the tools for assignment 3. So when we go into our new, our SolidWorks template doesn't have anything for assemblies yet. So we'll go back to the default templates and pick an assembly. Just like we created a part template, we should probably go ahead and create an assembly template in inch and in metric so that we have all of our grips. So this was set to automatically open. So there are some check boxes over here. So start command when creating a new assembly, begin assembly, insert a part, maybe not. And automatically browse, guess not. Making virtual, setting the envelope, show rotate tool in the context toolbar. Okay, so we like the rotate. I'm going to turn those two off if we want to show the preview, but kind of lacking some space over on this side. So when I select the document, it's pretty much gonna show me which one I'm picking. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. In our assembly command manager, or in our command manager, notice that the assembly tab now shows up. Layout is a method of sketching in the assembly to create some dynamic motion, dynamic layouts. We still have sketch tools, but they operate at a different level than, say, the part. And then markup for notes and being able to review documents so that changes can be made, or notes will for revisions or possible changes. And then the evaluate tools are pretty much the same, and the Solidworks add-ins for our group. Not doing too much with that one. We've been coming up to the gear and doing add-ins, so I'll go ahead and on the tabs we'll turn off those. Now give me a little bit more room. Okay, it'll give me a lot more room. And the main thing with the assembly, we'll probably do the origin. Go ahead and turn off the view sketch relations. We'll turn on the origin. We don't have any coordinate systems to speak of, so a lot of these will be as needed later on. Notice that the heads-up display carried over as a system parameter or system settings from the part. So I am looking at this in isometric. I don't think there's really too much in the options that is going to change. Under the assemblies, we want to do the move components by dragging. So left click, hold down, and drag. Optimize component placement. Allow creation of misaligned mates. Right, so there are some minor difference positional tolerances that we can override, but it will warn us before it allows those types of things. Lightweight mode saves resources when we get above 500 parts. Auto recover large assembly mode. So once it goes into large assembly mode, then these take effect. And there are going to be some things that automatically load lightweight. So really not too much that we need to do here. We're in inch, pounds, and seconds, so I would like to check the units. So we'll jump back over into the document properties. We'll set to 3 decimal places. And we said inch, pounds, and seconds is fine. So let's go ahead and do a file save as. Did the little pull down arrow there instead of going to file and save as. And then we're going to come down to assembly templates, which is an ASM DOT. It should default back to the last saved. If it goes to the all the way into the program file SolidWorks, and again that's multi-levels deep and a little harder to manage. And also, if I'm accessing these across multiple computers, the cloud storage is going to be a preferred location. So this will be my assembly. I'll go ahead and do was going to do lowercase and change the part over to that, so we'll just do one of those. Name it whatever makes sense. And if I switch to millimeters, grams, and seconds, my dual dimension goes to inches. And that can be 3 decimal places. The metric goes to 2 decimal places. And then we'll do a save as. And since I'm still defaulting to the solid assembly, we'll scroll down and find the assembly templates. And let's make sure I'm not overwriting. We'll do millimeters. Alright, so I can close that out. Now, because I saved that in my folder, my custom templates will be available in the with those templates. Alright, so I'm just going to open up a part inch. And we've said before that the design intent, or your magic crystal ball of design intent, is that as you become more proficient with the software and any of the solid modeling, that you will go through the process of thinking ahead how this will insert into the assembly and also into the drawing. So for an overview, always find that the cubes are the easiest way to start explaining the mate references. So in my part, I'm going to create a sketch for a center rectangle, and I'm purposefully putting the origin at the center. If I remember to hold down the left button, I can go 2 by 2, and it did not add it, so I still managed to not get those in, but it did put my my sizes correct. Alright, so it did make those equal, and it forced that into a driven dimension, which I can tell is going to be on the right context menu with the checkbox. Alright, so I don't really need that one. I'll go ahead and delete it. And I'm going to go into my features, extrude boss base, and I'm going to put this in the midplane so the origin is at the center of this cube. And we'll see how that looks when we bring this into the assembly. Alright, so from a sketching standpoint, as you're going through your parts, you'll develop a workflow and a strategy, and however you relate your parts to the origin and in that 3D space, there'll be a certain amount of consistency with it. So let's go ahead and save this. And that's not going to go to my templates, but I would like it in my project folder for this fall. So let's make this the assembly cube. Alright, so we have a part to work with now, and we already saw the first method of inserting. I'm going to leave this window open. We'll use it in a minute. Looks like I closed the assembly. It's not showing up, so one of the ways that I go between open files is the assembly cube, or sorry, the assembly cube will be listed as a group in the window pull down. So make sure that my assembly inch opens up. Alright, so this time it did not launch any of the insert components, begin assembly, all of that fun stuff. So that allows me to make some choices of how I want to bring the first part, my base component. So when I'm thinking in terms of building up a project, building an assembly, I start off with the base plate as kind of an obvious, it's going to be connected, whatever's going to connect to the ground. So with the with our assemblies and our modeling, we are now responsible for the physics. We need to overcome gravity. Two objects cannot occupy the same space, even though they can in the software. if it requires electricity, water, hydraulics, air, any of those fluid dynamics, then you are responsible for providing it. So the first component that I bring in, and the recommendation is you bring in one component at a time, and you fully define it with the mate references so that it becomes positioned and is in a reliable location orientation in your part. So since the begin assembly did not come up this time, I'm just going to go to Insert Components, and this would be the same as the begin assembly. If I decided that I wanted to start command when creating a new assembly, I can always do the insert component and turn that back on, and there might be a spot up in the options, but I think it's pretty much on this screen. Since the assembly cube is currently open in the background, which we could also see on the File Explorer. All right, assembly 2 is my current file, and then the assembly cube is open in the background. Once this file references that assembly cube part, if I were to close it, that would still be retained in memory, but it would go to gray. So we have some of those visual clues as the current status of our files. If this was not an open file and I needed to browse to, it would take me into the Windows Open, and I could go locate that file and bring it in. Since it's already there, I can position it in space. The Show Rotate Context toolbar is this little box, and I think, well, probably can't drag it with, I say there's got to be a location where, nope, maybe not. All right, so I would like to get it in a little better position. I just need to place this object first. All right, so if I go origin to origin, that looks like it would form a mate. If I just come over to the checkbox and hit OK, whatever the origin, whatever the orientation of the part, it's going to place it origin to origin. All right, and then I'm going to end up with that little F in front of my instance of my first instance of this cube. So the front plane of the assembly, if I expand this out, I'm going to see all of the geometry of the part. It aligns with the front plane of the part. The top plane of the assembly aligns with the top plane of the part. The right plane to the right plane, and the origin to the origin. All right, if that's acceptable, I'm done. Don't have to do anything else. If I did not create the part in the orientation that I expected it to come into the assembly, then I would need to float this, and we will end up floating some objects as we go. But float is going to allow this to move, where right now it's in a fixed position. All right, so if I wanted to bring in a second instance, I can hold down the control button, left click on the part, and drag it in. And now this comes in with a minus sign, and it is not going to move. All right, so you're going to get really good at rotating so that you can see the faces for the alignment. And I'm going to hold down the control button and select another face. We get the pop-up, and a lot of these mate relations are going to be similar or exactly the same as the sketch relations that we're going to be putting into our geometry. So if I overlook the pop-up and go into the paperclip, and for the mate, that is going to allow coincidence. So it looks like this has changed a little bit from 2020, so probably a good thing going through. So we now have the tabs instead of the little down arrows that we need. Add new folder looks new. Positioning only. All right, so I'm going to have to explore a little bit of those and see what they do. And we're going to go ahead and accept. So now that I'm in the mate property manager, this is going to stay active until I close it, and I can go in and pick another face and another face and hit OK, or come over to the property manager and hit OK. I'm going to rotate around, doesn't really matter front to back or back to front. We'll be able to align those. All right, so my hierarchy here is that I have aligned the faces of the geometry, and that's going to be probably the majority of what we do. This is not going to move. It says the component is fully defined because we have aligned that geometry and put our first instances into the mate relations for this assembly. And we'll go ahead and save this. Assembly first.